Hey Ashley, how are you?
Good. How are you? So good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
Yes, you just recently had a birthday, February 20th. Did you do
hmm
anything special for your birthday?
I had a little, just tiny little nothing celebration. I mean, what can you do? It's just it is what it is, and I feel like now pretty much just about everybody's had a quarantine birthday. We got maybe a few left.
Right.
And so we'll all know what that feels like. But and even for those of us who did go out and celebrate, there was at least some nervousness, that underbelly of like, did I
Yeah.
catch it, or did somebody? So either way, it's affecting us all. But I'm looking forward to my next birthday, 41.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, let's dive right into it. After much speculation, fans are still speculating, but we do see you at the end of episode one in the season one opener. Um, what can you tell us about Dr. Reynolds' return or what's coming? What can you tell us? We were like, okay, the fans were erupting on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I will say what's been interesting is that this was planned for Dr. Reynolds to leave in episode 17 of season two and come back by episode 21.
Right.
It was supposed to be just a few weeks, but the pandemic happened, obviously, and it turned into a year that the fans have to wait. I gotta admit, I've had a little fun with it, not saying anything, but at the same time, it's killed me because I love posting about stuff. I love posting about my experiences on set,
Right.
and it's just been very exciting. As far as his return, listen, he's got the relationship with Evie,
Right.
and television relationships should go up and down and have hurdles to get over. And with Reynolds having just moved to San Francisco, but suddenly having to go back so quickly,
Right.
it looks like yet another hurdle that he and Evie will have to jump and figure out.
Okay. And so we will get to see that relationship play out because we're like we're invested in that. We're invested in Dr. Reynolds and Evie. So we'll get more of that.
Absolutely, we're gonna get some questions answered.
When we spoke last year, I asked you about a possible spinoff. Where are we today with the spinoff, Job? What can you tell us? Are we going to get the spinoff with you? We would love to see a Dr. Reynolds spinoff in San Francisco or, going back and forth
hmm
to New Amsterdam. What can you tell us?
I think when it comes to spinoffs, the network NBC, they're I think they like them quite a bit. I think most networks do. So I think that's always kind of in the back of their mind, somebody in the office.
Right.
As for right now, I don't think there's any plans for Dr. Reynolds to do any spinoffs. And regarding with the writers, as a matter of fact, I want to retract that because they're always up to something that we don't
Right.
know about, and
Right.
I'm sometimes get a phone call the week before, something's going down. So it's let me just say it's always a possibility, but as of right now, I don't know of a plan.
The show, season three, episode one, opened up just showing the impacts of what COVID-19 had done, to not only the patients, but the effects it had on healthcare workers. What was your, initial thoughts when you watched it and saw, episode one play out? Were you emotional at all? What were your thoughts?
Well, it's just the same sort of experience I have in every episode of this show where I read it, and no matter what I read or what I envision, you can't imagine what they're going to do once they edit it all together, once they put the music, and you just feel it. And it was just so heart wrenching, and important, I think, for people to not so quickly forget where we were, and
Right.
not so quickly forget where we could end up if we don't take this seriously. And I love New York. I love the people here. I love the first responders and the nurses and the doctors and everybody who risk their lives on a daily basis to make sure that we keep this city alive and thriving. And I think that piece of art is a toast to them at the very least.
I spoke to Ryan earlier this week, and I asked him why this show is so important for families and people to get behind. I want to ask you the same thing, Jack. Why is this show such an important show, especially right now? And as we, go forward with the vaccine and, moving ahead of a life post-COVID. Why is this show so important for people to watch?
Well, the show's important for a number of reasons. One, healthcare is something that affects every single person on planet Earth, whether you have access to it, whether you don't, whether in your society it's treated as a privilege, whether in your society it's treated as a right. And we all know that it should be a right, and it can be a right. And that's the good fight that Max Goodwin fights every week on that show. He's enlisted his army of colleagues, myself included, and that's what it's about. We also drop gems of facts. Like I implore everybody to watch New Amsterdam and turn those subtitles on and slow it down, because we do get that little Aaron Sorkin vibe every now and then where we're walking and talking fast, but we're really dropping gems, and the writers have always impressed me with that. And I don't want to reveal some this year that we'll be dropping, but particularly with Max, man, he dropped some facts that are important for us to know, and it helps you. One of my favorite ones was from the season 1. Maybe we talked about this before, where they said, Max mentioned that you can negotiate your bill, your medical bill.
Yes.
Yeah, these are things that I didn't know if I was not on, let alone watching New Amsterdam. So that's a reason. But another reason that you should watch with your family is because it's just damn good fun. Right. My favorite type of show is a show that you have where you have these characters you're invested in, and you have the story you're invested in, and it's drama, but you have comedic moments in it. I remember in season 1 where the writers wrote me a couple of funny things, and that I just embraced, and they loved, and they wrote some more, and they have some moments between Max and I, and we could also handle these issues like Black Lives Matter, which will come up this year, and all of these social issues, but we could do it with the hint of humor. We've earned that right with the platform of something that is so serious at times, so it's great. I can go on and on about why families should watch the show, but it's just fantastic.
And when are we going to see? Are you at episode 2, episode 4? I've heard. When are we going to get Dr. Reynolds? Like throughout the whole episode, we want to know that. What can you tell?
Well, we'll have we take turns.
Okay.
On shows where obviously the one episode may skew a little more towards Bloom or towards Sharp. I think that this upcoming episode is a lot of Dr. Reynolds in that he's come back to help a friend, and so he gets a lot of time there, and then we're going to dip in and out. Dr. Reynolds is always dealing with some sort of love situation with his girl or his past fling with Bloom. When we're definitely going to see a lot more scenes with Reynolds and Bloom. And where that goes, we'll have to see. But a lot more scenes with Reynolds and Bloom than ever before. And let's see. And then we're gonna tackle some of these social issues too that we've all experienced. First of all, that we experience our whole lives, because
first and foremost,
it's just interesting to see people wake up and see what's going on. But we get to address it, and I'm just so excited. It's going to get good.
We have to come back and talk about that thing. I cannot wait. Now, Jocko, we're both from Texas, and yesterday, Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued an executive order ending the mask mandate. Effective immediately, he says that Texas is 100% fully open. What did you think when had you heard the news? And if you haven't heard the news, what do you think about, them ending the mask mandate in Texas?
I had heard the news, and I had to, a couple of weeks ago, call and figure out a way to get power to my grandmother. And make sure my dad had food and they're 200 miles away from each other. My grandma's in San Antonio, dad's in Houston. My grandmother stood out in the cold for over an hour while I stayed with her on the cell phone. I'm here in New York to get into a grocery store and get food. This is real.
Right.
Well, when I talk, so obviously that didn't have to do with the pandemic, but my point is, when you have people in power who don't take tragedies seriously, or they put their own self-interest ahead of communities and the people and their constituents, it's always baffling to me. On the other hand, at the same time, I understand that we've been on lockdown. I understand that, that people need childcare. There's a lot of people who can't go to work because they have their children at home. There's a lot of people who are getting tired of the kids. There's a lot of, there's a lot that we are dealing with. There's a lot of psychological ramifications of having to stay indoors. You have to weigh that risk. And you have to at least consider it and have that conversation. So I don't understand all the decisions they make in Texas, Mr. Abbott. And in other states, Texas is not alone. Right. There's some other states. I heard Mississippi's following, and Florida has always marched to the beat of its own drum. That said, I don't know. Yeah, I love this question. It's so political, and I could talk all day about this stuff. It's odd. I understand the desire to want to make sure your businesses are not going to be lost forever. I get it. I just feel like there's a way that we can do it safely. To say that, no mask mandate, and these are the same people who kind of failed with the grid. These things aren't working. These things don't work out. So it's obvious. Right. I think we should come up with other solutions.
Maybe Dr. Reynolds should go and advise Greg Abbott, Jocko, or maybe Jocko should go and advise.
Hey, I do whatever I can. I do whatever I can. Like I said, we're all directly connected or affected by all of these actions, and God forbid we have something else pop up in Texas with another inflation of the disease. We are all going to be affected by that. So, I know there's state lines on the map, but we're all on the same continent, and we're all on the same land, and it spreads, you know what I mean? So COVID knows no borders.
No borders. Jack, thank you so much for talking to us today. I want to talk more about the rest of the season, so you have to come back and let's do this. I want to dive in some more. So congratulations.
You got it. Anytime, I'm down. Thank you so much, Ashley. And
thank you so much, Jack.
Where is the buzz? You said was mine.